Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be drawing a robot, and this one's going to be a little bit angular. It's going to have a few more details than the one we worked on last time. If you didn't get a chance to follow along with that one, please feel free to check it out in the description down below. As usual, I'm starting with an Undersketch. This is my handy Prisma Coal Erase red pencil. It's nothing special, I just find the red rather fun. I'm beginning with a bunch of standard forms. I'm thinking of these in my head as simply being the basic building blocks of this particular robot. The abdomen, the pelvis, the shoulders, where the limbs are going to connect. In general, I'm thinking of this as a bipedal humanoid-esque robot. It's simpler for this part of the process. As we continue to expand and create more dynamic and more interesting robots, we will start working with head and abdomen being separate, but for now, we're going to keep things fairly simple. I'm also throwing a little bit more character into this one with some goofy teeth and some eyes. This is something that I would encourage you to start pushing into your artwork early. These kinds of funny, small details make things interesting, exciting, and give more personality where there wouldn't necessarily be any to begin with. I'm now beginning to go in with ink. This is a Pigma Micron 01. This is the standard size that I use for most of my drawings. It is nothing complicated, they're widely accessible, but I think it's always wise to indicate the kinds of things that you're working on. The paper is a 70-pound smooth ink paper. At this stage, I like to go around and give myself the circumference shapes. Start just where I know the edges are going to be. Sometimes I will leave gaps. These are for dents or for any overlapping features that I think I might include. But on this one, I'm going to keep it fairly simple. Don't worry though, the robots will get more complicated as time goes on, as I try to build up a repertoire of these kinds of instructional videos to help any artist embark on their own robotic journey. This stage is fairly important though. I find that it is often the most stressful stage adjacent to the actual sketching. Forms that are established in these two phases are the final things that you're going to see. You can add any amount of detail, shading, texturing on top of them later, for sure, but the basic forms are being established right now. So if you feel like you need to go slowly at this point in your drawing, I would encourage you to embrace that. There's no shame in taking a long time in the planning stages, and really, that's still where we are here. I'm keeping a lot of the features fairly simple. I'm not articulating the toes or articulating the fingers. These are details that we can work on in later videos. For now, we're simply working on shape language and what kind of personality we're trying to communicate with this robot. You can already start to look at him and feel like I could understand how he would move, the kind of body language he might express. These kinds of things are actually more important if you're trying to work on some kind of character. The other details are important for sure, but whether that hand looks perfect or not, the body language, the forms, the silhouette, and expressions on the face are going to communicate far more about what that character is actually about. These things can take a long time to learn, so practicing them with something like this that can be amorphous, that can take on any form that you desire, is a really safe place to start. Well, I've finished off most of the basic forms. Things aren't perfect. There's differences in spacing that maybe could have been done a little bit better, but it doesn't matter all that much. But I'm now going to start moving in and creating some additional details. First off, I'm going to the teeth and making sure that they are actually three-dimensional. Though we are facing this character directly from the front, there is still some depth that I'm going to imply. I'm doing that in the eye sockets as well, and then I'm going to go straight on to working on some plating, some things that are going to imply the textures and going to imply the actual materials that were used to make this up. I find that time invested in this is usually fairly rewarding, because very quickly you can start to see, oh, this is made of metal, and in this case, it's not made of metal because of the colors we've used, because of any texture, but simply because our brains understand that lines such as these with little circles on the sides imply sheets of metal and bolts. And there's a lot of simple things like this that our human brains pick up on, things that we see in our daily life that resonate with us. Another one is leaving the reflection in the eyes, which implies that the eyes have life to them. This is, of course, because eyes that have to move in their sockets are moist, and so they will almost always reflect any light source. This is something that is a really integral part of communicating life in a drawing, even when it is something like this, where it's robotic, where that wouldn't necessarily be the case. We can still apply some of that humanity to it, anthropomorphize it in a way by inputting that reflection. Though these joints on the arms are quite simple, they achieve exactly what they need to. They communicate that this is where those two elements come together. There is a third element in the middle, which seems to imply that things could move around and jostle a little bit as this funky little character moves forward. I think we're going to call him Chad. I'm not sure why, but something in my mind says Chad is a good name for him. He's a little bit slow moving, but he's really reliable and he's a good friend. So hello, Chad. And hello to me dropping my pen. Maybe I'm Chad. Maybe each of these strange robots and drawings and monsters that make their way onto this channel and onto my pages are simply extricated versions of me. But I feel like that conversation is probably best had at another date. I'm continuing to do the same thing in the limbs, to add in implied joints, places where things connect, places where things move. You can spend a lot of time looking at machinery in your daily life, particularly looking at construction equipment to see how things actually move and bend, and you'll learn a tremendous amount. You could look up cybernetics, you could look up anything from Star Wars or any other video games, and you'll find lots of really beautiful ways that things are articulated, specifically in how limbs on robotic things move. I will focus on that at a later date, but for now, it doesn't particularly matter. We understand looking at this character that that is an arm, and that's the way it moves. So don't let yourself get bogged down with too many details when you're starting on these kinds of drawings. Those things are important, but if they keep you from moving forward, they're not important in that moment. What's important is getting that idea down, communicating what you need to with your piece of art. It's easy, oh so easy, to allow yourself to be inhibited by things that are not important in the moment. If you are a more advanced artist and you want to make sure that every single component that you draw makes sense, that could physically be constructed in the world, that is wonderful. But I find that for most people, that's not altogether beneficial. This, of course, applies only to the beginning stages. If you want to push yourself forward, it will become essential eventually, but at the beginning, we have to be careful to take things slowly and to focus on the things that are most important at that particular moment. Chad's coming along rather nicely. I also think it's worth mentioning right now that I am recording all of this in real time. I am doing the voiceover afterwards simply so the drawing process is more streamlined. When I draw at the same time that I'm recording my voice, I tend to stammer my words a little bit more and I tend to draw a little bit more slowly. This is, though, at 1x speed. I haven't sped anything up. If there's any cuts, it will simply be for time where I took a drink or I had to cough or blow my nose or something. Allergy season is upon us, and so that sometimes occurs. But I wanted to indicate that simply because that's fair to you who are watching. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to pull any kind of wool over your eyes. This is simply a voiceover over a drawing that was done in real time. And Chad is coming along. He doesn't have a whole lot of texture to him. In this drawing, instead, I'm focusing primarily on indicating the texture of the metal by indicating plates and bolts. There is a lot that could be done here. If I wanted to spend another 15-20 minutes on a drawing such as this, I could go in and apply a lot of hatching on the underside of each of these materials. And that would do a lot for this drawing. And if you want to do that with your own, go ahead. I would encourage you to do so. It's rather fun, and I have a lot of videos on this channel about different hatching techniques and when they are best applied. Near the end of the drawing, I like to go in and start adding these really dark areas. It allows for more contrast, obviously, but the shadow beneath, the cast shadow underneath the object itself, brings a sense of life and realism to it. Because no longer is it a flat thing sitting upon the page, we can look at it and understand that it exists in its own implied 3 dimensions. This is an important thing to give to your artwork, and part of the reason why light and value are always considered some of the most basic of the fundamentals that you need with your artwork. This is a simple trick to make things look more realistic. Our brains unconsciously understand that there are shadows, and that those shadows, of course, are the opposition to the highlights, where the light is hitting the object. This is something that indicates to us that this object exists in real space, that it is not simply flat. Although, of course, it is flat. All drawings are flat. But we are simply trying to imply that it has dimensions that it does not. Well, as always, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear what you'd like me to work on next, especially as I keep going with the robots, but in any other topic as well. Have a good one, y'all. See you soon.